Take it away.
So, Book 5. The Trojans leave Carthage. As they leave, they see the city burning with fire. A storm hits the Trojans when they reach the sea. One of Aeneas' sailors tells Aeneas that they can't make it to Italy because of the storm, and instead they should head to Sicily. The Trojans land in Sicily, close to the tomb of Aeneas' father, Anchises. The Trojans are welcomed by Acestes. Aeneas reminds his comrades about the anniversary of the death of Anchises and commits a sacrifice at his tomb. A snake comes out from the tomb and takes the offerings and disappears. The funeral games follow, which include contests in rowing, running, boxing, and archery. 4 men enter the rowing contest: Menestheus and the Pristes, Gaius and the Chimeras, Augustus and the Centaurus, and Cloanthus and the Scylla. Their goal is to go around a walk. Cloanthus wins because of his prayer to the gods is heard. Aeneas gives all 4 men prizes, including Sergestus. The foot race follows, and Aeneas promises gifts to all runners and special prizes to the first 3. Euryalus wins because Nisus slips on spilled blood and Cilius trips over Nisus. Nisus and Cilius get a prize even though they lost. Afterwards, Aeneas announces the boxing competition. Dares is willing to accept any challenge, but nobody comes forward. Acestes urges Antalus, a boxer who was trained by Eryx, to oppose Dares. Antalus, who is older, accepts the challenge. The fight begins after Antalus gives a speech. Antalus aims to hit Dares but misses, causing him to fall over. He is aided as he stands up and resumes the fight. Aeneas intervenes the fight, proclaiming Antalus the winner. Antalus is given an ox as a prize and kills it with 1 blow as a sacrifice to Eryx, his trainer. He announces his retirement from boxing. Then Aeneas calls upon the archery contest. A dove is the target. Hippocoon aims and hits the mast, followed by Menestheus, who cuts the cord. Eurytion shoots the bird down as it flies away. Acestes is left with no target and shoots his arrow into the air. The arrow catches fire, and Aeneas takes it as a good omen and claims Acestes the winner. Finally, the Trojan boys, including Iulus, perform an equestrian show where they show off their skills. Iulus introduces Albalonga in this final ceremony. While the games take place, Juno asks Iris to make the Trojan woman burn their ships. Iris does so and takes the figure of a Trojan woman, but she gets caught. The Trojan women start to burn the ships. Ascanius runs to stop them and manages to do so. Aeneas prays to Jupiter to help them or to finally destroy them. Jupiter hears his prayer and sends a thunderstorm to put out the fire. Because 4 ships are burned, Aeneas wonders if he should continue or not. Nautes advises Aeneas to leave some people behind. Aeneas sees the image of Anchises, who tells him to accept Nautes' proposition. He must go to the underworld before he sails to Italy in order for him to see his father and hear his prophecy. A city is then founded under Acestes for those staying behind. A priest and sanctuary is appointed to the tomb of Anchises, and a temple for Venus is created. 9 days of celebration take place to honor the new city before the Trojans leave. The Trojans then make sacrifices and sail away from Sicily. Venus complains to Neptune of the hostility of Juno towards the Trojans. She makes Neptune promise to help the Trojans sail safely to Italy. Neptune promises, but says that 1 life must be sacrificed for all others to be saved. While Palinurus is leading the Trojan ships, sleep comes to him and urges him to go to sleep. Palinurus refuses, so sleep casts him into the sea. With Palinurus gone, Aeneas takes over the ship. So, in Virgil's The Aeneid, the 5th book begins right after the Trojans leave Carthage. They see the city burning with fire as they sail out to sea. The Trojans find themselves in Sicily again. The book reintroduces King Acestes and establishes the events that lead to the continuity of Aeneas' journey. And the strategic 5th Aeneid, by Eleanor Swallow, discusses how Book 5 of Virgil's The Aeneid is intended to serve as a break, allowing Aeneas to regain his strength before he goes on to fulfill his destiny. Swallow mentions how Book 5 is needed because of the abrupt ending of the previous book. The break away from the emotional impact of the great 4th book is too sudden to permit of us plunging immediately into something equally profound, end quote. She believes that the events that appear, such as the revisiting of Sicily and the funeral games, helps the book unfold its end. Her focus is on the Trojan people and how they have become overwhelmed with the epic journey. The return to Sicily provides for the people who had grown with age and the women who are tired of the weary traveling an option to settle. The need for a portion of the people to stay behind is necessary for Aeneas to be able to continue his journey. If Aeneas does not make it to Italy, a strong people will be needed to overcome the hardships of building a new city. The situation in which Aeneas finds him is perfect because it provides options for Aeneas and his people. In Sicily, Acestes is the ruler who welcomes Aeneas. Swallow points out how Acestes portrays the qualities of a Roman leader. Quote, all these things show the good old Roman virtues exercised in fitting circumstances, end quote. Such virtues include the hospitality that Acestes offers, as well as his devotion to his penates and his ancestors, and his fondness of hunting. He, unlike Aeneas, can provide a home to the Trojans, although Swallow points out how the Trojan people would only seek Acestes if Aeneas were to die. Quote, Ilioneus, as the spokesman for the separated ships, to a Dido that if Aeneas proved to be no longer alive, they would seek a kinsman, Trojan Acestes, as their king, end quote. The solution to Aeneas' problem involves Acestes. Swallow argues that the weak people of Aeneas are a problem to his continuing of the journey. Acestes can provide a home for those Trojans that are no longer capable of going to find Italy, thus allowing Aeneas to continue. Aeneas is known for his pietas, and his actions in Book V of the Aeneid exemplifies his given epithet. While Swallow makes a good argument about how Aeneas has no choice but to leave some of his people in order for him to continue his journey, she ignores his character. The circumstances that Aeneas faces, such as the burning of the ships, are indicators to Aeneas that he has to leave some of his people back, followed by the advice that Nautus provides. I agree that no matter what the circumstances were, that Aeneas would have had to leave a group behind in Sicily, provided that some would rage at Aeneas for wanting to continue with Acestes, when Acestes provides them a safe home, and others would be too weary to continue on. Aeneas' loyalty towards his people makes matters simpler because he wants the best for his people and he understands the hardships that they have gone through with. Ignoring the events of the burning ships, Aeneas would have given his people a choice before they left Sicily, either to follow him or to stay behind under Acestes' rule. Aeneas would only allow his people to stay behind, knowing that the ruler would provide a good home to his people. Acestes has rightfully earned the trust of Aeneas, since Acestes has now helped the Trojans twice. Swallow states that the fifth installment of the Aeneid is strategic in contents and in its placing. The nature of the fifth book is strategic, and that the repeating of the visit to Sicily foreshadows the continuing of the journey to Italy. Because of the revisit to Sicily, the reader takes notice that it's after leaving Carthage, and so now Aeneas is closer to achieving his goal. The visit to Carthage impacted Aeneas emotionally, and the fifth book does serve as a strategic way to clear his mind and to getting his act together. Aeneas needs a reminder from the gods that he needs to continue his journey no matter what. The events help him reestablish his goals, the storm that hits them, as in Book 1, and the visit to Sicily. The funeral games, which Swallow doesn't mention often, are important to helping Aeneas remember why he is still alive. The visit from his father Anchises pushes him to remember that he has to continue because it is the will of the gods. The events in the fifth book are there to push Aeneas to Italy. As the Trojans set out to sea, Aeneas finally realizes that he has left Troy behind, literally because he has left a part of his people in Sicily, and heads to create a new civilization of people.
Plaudite omnes. Brenda read through a lot of stuff very fast. I know it's kind of tough to follow. You and I need to talk. Okay? You have got a serious piece to develop for college. My head literally jerked up when you said something, and again, as with Maya yesterday in her comment, I could tell was hers and not from the article. Yours was certainly yours and not from the article. The whole business about funeral games. So many people see this as a grand waste of time. What the heck is this doing in this book? All this kind of stuff. You touched on something about it connecting with the importance of helping him remember his purpose, why he is there. You even referenced the word pietas. This book absolutely has a place in the Aeneid, and it is that And I don't see anybody else saying that. I've had it on my personal list of projects for several years, and I haven't had time to write the article. You need to do this. You need to do this. That is outstanding. I just got to say, you don't have the text in front of you, but if you do, at some point, Book 5, line 481 is the funniest dadgum thing. In the boxing match, the guy, the winner, takes his fist, literally raises it up, and comes, bam, right down on the skull of this ox. And the animal just falls over dead. It is the funniest thing. And it just says line 40.
Oh my God.
Sternoterex animisque trem means procumbent humi boss. Now,
Bam.
I would, bam is right.
Have you forgotten your highest in here again?
Because bam is right. 481, I think there was one example before, and I don't know if we drew attention to it, is something called a ropalon, where each word is one syllable shorter as it goes along. So the last three words are procumbit, 3 syllables, humi, 2 syllables, bos, the word for bull. So literally the bull fell on the ground, but there's this bum 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 boom, literally with the sound, procumbit, humi, bos. And there goes the bull flying out on the ground. It's just absolutely hilarious. What's that? Oh, sorry. Sorry. See all the cows in the slaughterhouse yard? Gotta hit them in the head, gotta hit them real hard. Bring it back to paper. Okay, I'm just singing the song. I didn't come up with that one. But anyhow. All right, Dr. Schmeichel, Book 6. Very well done, Brenda. Book 6. We are going to be reading, say what, Amy, if you can, tell us, start with how Book 6 fits into everything, because we're going to be reading from Book 6, so again, I want to skip the summary, since we're going to be reading it ourselves. So pick it up with how it fits.
Alright. In Book 6, the past and the future are brought together in the present through the visiting of the underworld and the prophecies of the Sibyl. In the underworld, Aeneas sees many prominent people from his past, including his father, many of his fellow soldiers, and a woman who took her own life for him. This is the last time he will ever see any of these people ever again. This chapter helps completely wrap up any loose ends with Aeneas' relationship with that person. However, according to the Sibyl, much more awaits Aeneas and his comrades, including another huge war, a foe to rival the prowess of Achilles, and even more interventions from Juno. One of the most renowned sections in the Aeneid is when Aeneas and a Sibyl are down exploring the underworld. This section gives the reader a glimpse into Virgil's mindset, and really the mindset of the period when it comes to the afterlife. In her essay, The Aeneid and the Inferno, Social Evolution, Dana Spiegel compares Virgil's view of the underworld and Dante's circles of hell through the lens of the social aspects of the time period. She says, the afterlife as a residence for souls after death intrigues us. It is a concept that we cannot know about except through direct experience, which once obtained cannot be shared, yet this does not prevent us from envisioning its form. So, since people have no concept of the afterlife, they just throw in the ethic code of the time period and fabricate the idea from there. In the pre-Christian Roman society, when Virgil was writing, the ethical standpoints were much different than they were 1400 years later during Dante's time period, when Christianity was a dominant source of power and a huge driving force for society. The church would say, if a man is free, he is responsible. So all punishment fell on him and him alone. These differing moral codes would have caused these societies' views in the afterlife and its punishments to be extremely different. Despite the fact that Dante's main source of genius for his book was Virgil, he chose to set up his view of the underworld quite differently. Both had the same ideas to separate the super sinners from the good and normal people, but Dante went a little more radical with it than Virgil did. He placed each type of sin in a specific circle of hell. The circles were like prison cells, centered on the 7 deadly sins: lust, gluttony, wrath, sloth, avarice, envy, and pride. The closer one got to the bottom of hell, the worse the sin and punishment was. This is called contrapposto, the worse the sin, the greater the punishment. The ultimate sin was being a traitor to the benefactor, and the punishment was being eaten by one of Lucifer's 3 heads. Some of the examples of the people down there were Judas, Brutus, and Cassius. Dante did not believe in limbo and thought that everyone was either insurmountably good or insurmountably evil, reflecting the mindset of the church since it was focused on the Inquisition and purging itself of heretics at that time, which was 1300s AD. And I have a little picture of Dante's hell. Anyways, Virgil created his view as more of a country rather than a prison. He illustrates this through the rivers and the trees and the vast expanses, and the vast expanse of space. He did not create any exact borders like Dante had, but then again, the ethical standards in society in general wasn't as advanced. Virgil relied on his society's older code of ethics to decide where to place people. This focused on cheaters, hoarders, adulterers, and betrayers, and they were all clumped together in one spot, showing how Virgil was in assigning souls places to be for the rest of eternity. Limbo was also present in his mindset because his society wasn't as harsh. They realized that no one was without sin and that everyone had to pay dues in the underworld. Spiegel cited this passage to illustrate this. Not all the scourges of the body pass from the poor souls, not all distress of life. Inevitably, many malformations growing together in mysterious ways become inveterate. Therefore, they undergo the discipline of punishments and paying penance for old sins. We suffer each his own shade. Virgil thought that the exact nature of a doomed soul's suffering is not important. The mere existence of that suffering is enough to make hell an undesirable place. So he only vaguely mentions the pain and torture of the sinners. I believe that the author's analysis of their respective topics is very insightful and well thought out. Susan Blow's article compared Dante's view to modern society, and it was extremely helpful as I had no previous knowledge of Dante's ideas. In addition, that the article was extremely subjective and did not provide much textual evidence for that reason. She presented her ideas in a very straightforward way and connected certain things I would not have thought of myself. Spiegel's article comparing Virgil to Dante assisted greatly in this research, presenting facts and insight that helped provide a foundation for the paper. The use of these articles together, Virgil to Dante, Dante to modern day, forged a leap from Virgil to present day and has left me reflecting on society's evolution from the 1st century BC to modern day because of the insurmountable change in ethics, society, values, and everything else. I'm in awe. Period.
Latte on next.
That's the closest
Drink of water.
sentence ever.
Thank you.
So you said you're unfamiliar with Dante. Do we still read Dante at all here?
No.
Really? We used to. Mr. Coleman did. Well, okay, you will in college, as part of any decent liberal arts college background. Not sure what more to say if you don't have the background on it. I really like the contrast between Virgil's picture of the underworld as country, or countryside, but you certainly have all these natural elements. You got rivers, trees, as you said, versus some sort of prison thing which Dante certainly has going on in the Inferno. There's a lot more to be said about all that, but we will cover that when we get into Book 6, I suppose. Okay, Planeteum next. Book 7, Dr. Stevens.
Oh yeah, Rachel. Rachel's my girl.
Try not to, whoever's saying, try not to sound quite so demonic. So please try not to sound so demonic when you say her name. It sounds rather frightening. Okay. Dr. Stevens, please begin.
The seventh book of Virgil's Aeneid opens with a funeral for Aeneas' nurse, who is named Kytia. As the Trojans think on their next move, always the founding of Troy, they set out on the sea as soon as the water calms and the moon shines bright so that their night sail runs smoothly. After some time, the Trojans near the island of sorceress Circa, which they recognize by the sound of savage animals whom they know were once men before Circa transformed them.
That's Circe.
Fortunately, a favorable wind from Neptune carries their ships past the island easily and safely to avoid her snare. By the light of the next dawn, Aeneas can see an upcoming shoreline noted for its forests. Continuing to look towards the shore, the scene appeals to them as a large river, unbeknownst to them the Tiber, flows overwhelmingly into the sea, and numerous beautiful birds surround the heavens above the shore. They have arrived in Latium. Virgil beckons the muse Erato to create the scene of Latium at the time of their arrival. Latinus, now in old age, has not one living male heir, only an unmarried daughter, Lavinia. With all of the suitors in the region competing for their approval, Turnus is the most handsome choice. Though Turnus is adored by Queen Amata, Latinus is convinced omens have warned him against their marriage. Unwilling to not know, Latinus seeks out the best prophet in the whole area, a waterfall. The prophet explained Lavinia was to be joined with a foreigner and have descendants that would rule the world with great power. Though intended to be a secret, as rumor would have it, all the Latia knew of the prophecy by the time Aeneas landed on the shores. Upon arrival, Aeneas and his men unpack their belongings and make themselves a feast by using hard wheat cakes as platters for their meal. Being famished after their long sail, the Trojans consume the wheat cake platters too, which, as Ascanius remembers, fulfills the prophecy of Harpy
Calino.
from the third book. From the remembered prophecy, Aeneas discerns this land, Latium, is destined to be their homeland. Grateful for the favor of the gods thus far, they finally arrive at their homeland. The Trojans celebrate in a festival for the gods. Jupiter approves with a louding thunder. The following day, they prepare for intended foundation exploring the shore, building a fortress for their men and sending messengers to King Latinus. When the emissaries meet King Latinus, he tells the Trojans he knows that they are descendants of Dardanus, who comes from Italy. Latinus also reveals that Saturn was their ancestor, making them naturally fair people. In reply, the representatives agree to their descendant Dardanus, adding that they have come to Italy on a divine mission. Therefore, they ask for permission from just King Latinus to settle into the shore as they extend their friendship. After a moment pondering his options, the king accepts the offer and expresses a recent prophecy in which a foreigner marries his daughter. Telling them confidently that Aeneas is the husband for his daughter, he returns the Trojans on horses with a half-immortal horse for Aeneas. All seems well until Juno catches sight of Aeneas' success, having finally reached his destination. So she initiates a fight between the Trojans and the Latins. Juno stirs the fury Alecto of Hades to work as her spirit of vengeance. Alecto pursues Amata, the queen, so that she may infect Amata with one of the snakes that replace her hair. With the fury having been successful, the snakes of hatred cause her to beseech Latinus not to let Aeneas marry Lavinia. The king ignores her request with the confidence of his prophecy. Full of rage, but unable to persuade the king, Amata steals her daughter off into the woods to live as a Bacchante devoted to the god of ecstasy and inebriation. Again, perhaps a work of rumor, Amata's Bacchante lifestyle spreads around Latium, only to lead more women to join her in the mountains. The Bacchants, being secluded, independent women against convention, stand together in their carousing, while Amata, holding a burning pine torch, sings a wedding hymn for Lavinia and Turnus instead of Aeneas. Having led Amata astray as required, Alecto moves on to incite the Rutilians, the people of Turnus. The Fury disguises herself as an old woman to appear in Turnus's bedroom to question why he did not fight for Lavinia's hand in marriage. She suggests he fight a battle with the Trojans, but remain peaceful with the Latins so that they are indirectly heard as allies, and Aeneas will be repulsed by the royalty, or at least reconsidered. Turnus quickly agrees, but dismisses too arrogantly and ungratefully not to be punished by her vengeful nature. In a fit of ire, she takes two snakes from her head, cracks them like whips, and buffets a torch at Turnus. Turnus awakes scared and alone, ready to follow the old woman's suggestion. Without any question, the other Rutilians join him as he sets out for war with the Trojans by heading towards King Latinus' capital. With one side of the war now in motion, Alecto finds the Trojans, who are hunting with Ascanius. Alecto sabotages the Trojans' relationship with the Latins by putting the hunters' hounds on a scent of a deer, whom Tyrrhus, King Latinus' warden of estates, domesticated. Unaware of the deer's owner and nature, Ascanius mortally wounds the deer with his arrow and watches it run back to the owner's home. A divinely orchestrated battle ensues between the Trojans and Latin statesmen and their associates. Several men are killed. The results please Alecto and Juno, who consequently thanks Alecto for her deceitful work and sends her back to Hades, intending to continue manipulating the men for Aeneas' demise herself. Meanwhile, the battle continued to spread among the Latin shepherds and the Trojans. Eventually, the Latins returned to their capital, with those who died in the divinely intentional, earthly accidental, and completely petty war. With the Latins gathered together, Turnus raises riot among them over King Latinus's plan to marry Lavinia to Aeneas, the Trojan, instead of himself, a man of their land. The most enraged men who joined them first are those whose women became bacchantes with Amata, either in attempts to have their women return because they are angry their women left, or because, like the women, they feel very strongly about Turnus marrying Lavinia. King Latinus refuses to follow Turnus when he wants Aeneas to marry Lavinia. Ironically, though, he believes the people who follow Turnus will be punished for disobeying the god's will, when in reality they are acting just as the gods intended. Virgil makes the Roman custom of war clear. When war is declared, the king is to open a pair of ceremonial gates locked with 100 bullets. Latinus would not pry open the traditional gates when the people compelled him to, which left mischievous Juno to do so herself. The whole countryside of Italy was now preparing for war against the Trojans. Much like Homer wrote himself, Virgil calls upon the Muses once more to list the brave men fighting against the Trojans. The men of note include Mezentius from Tuscany, said to have held the gods in scorn, his son Lausus, who aside from Turnus was the most handsome man in Italy, of course Turnus covered in the most impressive armor, and female Volscian warrior Camilla, known for sprinting so quickly that she could run on top of a wheat field without running any of the stalks or over the sea. Book 7 closes as young men and women marvel as they watch the bronze and purple cloaked warriors prepare for battle. As the Aeneid is composed of 12 books in total, the 7th book opens the second half of the epic. In this position, it wraps up some of the loose ends of the first half. For example, the prophecy made by the Harpy in the 3rd book is fulfilled as they eat their tables out of hunger upon reaching their homeland. The Trojans also have a long-awaited but short-lasting moment of tranquility after landing in Latium. Manipulative Juno continues to keep up her resilient fight with Aeneas, whom Juno evidently does not want to be successful, but is too strong and loyal to the gods as the son of Venus to have perished yet. Juno, being the goddess of marriage, also tinkers with another potential relationship of Aeneas, destructively instead of like Dido, and with the twist of the recurring, now active Bacchantes. In addition, the 7th book explains how the series of battles, which entertain much of the second half of the Aeneid, begin. Similar to the last war, the battles begin over the marriage of a young woman. The 7th book is a pivotal moment in the epic poem because it both ends the nature of content discussed in the first half, begins the wars of the second half, yet reiterates the same quarrels among gods and men in concepts or images like the rumor of Bacchantes. Regarding the placement of Italian warrior Camilla at the end of the 7th book, there is much confusion. Through his thorough, impressive description of her, she was clearly made to appear powerful. Many commentators have wondered at Virgil's intention in giving the place of honor among the final list of soldiers to a woman, especially since she is unheard of elsewhere in the tradition surrounding the Trojan invasion of Italy. Williams of the American Journal of Philology suggests that when she is excluded from the stanza, the warriors form symmetry with Mezentius and Turnus, while Camilla is sort of a pendant, bringing the book to a close on a note of strangeness. This concept seems unlikely, as each of the previous books ended for itself, as if the work did not have to continue, but could easily flow into the next edition. In fact, the rest of the 7th book answered all of the questions remaining after the first half. It seems improbable that Virgil would raise a controversial notion at the end of the book, only to forget to finish his train of thought later. However, in Homer's work, which Virgil's work thus far has echoed, he mentions a woman, Penthesilea, but does not allow her any action either. The invention of her actions came during the Middle Ages by men who had read their Virgil well and had to give a body to the Homeric ancestor of Virgil's Camilla. This similarity in the assertions that neither author created active women suggested a united purpose in the use of women as characters. In the anticipated character of Penthesilea, created later, which was similar to Camilla's, she was fighting on the wrong side of the epic and thus fated to die. Women then have the negative connotation as if they are not worth describing after they are clearly made a symbol of evil. The side to fight. In fact, in Milton's portrayal of sin as a primal threat to man's unfallen unity is figured as an armed woman begotten by a single male parent. The creation of this woman parallels the mythological creation of Athena from Zeus's head. The duality of women, such as Camilla, is discussed once more by Small, who is displeased with his influence that adversaries Camilla and Turnus died for the same reasons as Aeneas. Did Turnus really give his life as a patriot for humble Italy? However, he also presents her more highly than Turnus as a chaste devotee of Diana. Perhaps then the meaning discerned from the ambivalence of women is that males fear women, yet recognize their beauty and strength as Camille was glorified and remained an enemy. The sources used to analyze the placement of Camilla in the 7th book of the Aeneid are considered trustworthy and accurate for their release on JSTOR and being published by the Johns Hopkins University. In addition, each source supported the findings within one another. It is unlikely that the content of the journals is at all compromised by their earlier dates in the 20th century, but it is worthy to note that little recent work has been done on this book. The only disappointment in working with these texts was the expectation to purchase several of the articles in order to read some of them.
Applaud to Teon. I guess I'll start with that. We shouldn't have had to have purchased anything because we have a JSTOR account through North Central.
Yeah, that sentence didn't sound right. It was supposed to mean that there were a lot of articles, but you had to purchase some of them. But I didn't feel like I had to purchase them.
Well, what I'm saying, you shouldn't have even, I guess, been prompted.
There's some that are free. I'm like, they're honestly.
I'll say most of the things you would be interested in should be certainly accessible for free. Well, a couple things. There's so much in Book 7. It's the start of the Iliadic half. It's the warlike stuff, exactly as Rachel said. It's tying up some loose ends and previous stuff. Certainly the famous eating at the tables. Gentlemen, am I distracting you? Cooper?
No.
I'm glad. The whole Camilla thing is certainly interesting, although you can parallel that well with Dido. She's called dukes again, back to stuff from Maya, so I think there's an interesting parallel there between Camilla and Dido and what he does with his female characters. You raised a point, or used some rather dismissive word like pointless or something like that, describing this war, and you're exactly right. Poor Ascanius shoots a deer, and next thing you know, this new war is broken out. It was a deer, what do you want? I mean, it turns out it was a special deer, and so all these people go ballistic.
It just happened to be one deer.
Yeah, one deer, and you drew that out well. You made an interesting comment though at the end, and again, this is for anybody. As scholars, if anybody goes into anything like this, whether classical scholars or English historians, whatever, you're always looking for that area that hasn't been published on yet. And you said doesn't seem like there's been a lot on Book 7 in recent years. Some of the articles are dated from earlier. That's a great place to start looking and say, hey, what new stuff could I say about this book? Maybe that hasn't been said before. So it's a great place to look as you're looking for things in college. Plot of tailmates. Dr. Kowalik.
Mr. Perkins.
Okay.
It seemed to me that a lot of the stuff that was, a lot of the scholarship that was about 7 was also about 11, just because of the Camilla connection.
Camilla comes back.
Yeah, and she dies in 11. Yeah, and
spoiler
Hey,
alert.
oh, sorry guys.
I mean, she marries Aeneas at 11.
Yeah. And then she commits suicide. And then also, isn't she's an actual general, right? As opposed
Yes.
to,
No, dude.
as
Yes.
Dido being.
She's totally.
Dido who led her people, but yes, she is in fact a genuine warrior.
Yeah. Yes.
So they should have gotten married and had a super child.
And had a
Had a
super
super
child.
Dr. Kowalik,
Yes.
It's still good.
begin please.
While Turnus of Latium gathers forces along with King Latinus to drive the Trojans out of Italy, Aeneas readies the Trojan troops and solicits support from nearby cities in the region. He is still extremely troubled by the turnouts of the battle. That night, the river god Tiberinus speaks to Aeneas and tells him to form an alliance with the Arcadians, who are also at war with the Latins. Aeneas rows several days up the Tiber to the forest of the Arcadians. There, the Trojans address the Arcadian king, Evander, who gladly offers aid against their common enemy and invites Aeneas to a feast. After the feast, rites are performed in honor of Hercules, the patron of the Arcadians, who killed the monster Caucasus near where Arcadia now stands. Evander also explains how Saturn formed the land of Latium, saying that it was once a land of savages. Meanwhile, Venus, worried of her son's fate during the coming battle, speaks to her husband Vulcan, the god of fire and forging, and persuades him to make Aeneas new weapons and armor that will give him an added advantage. The next morning, back in Arcadia, King Evander distributes what troops he can spare to Aeneas' command. He also bids neighboring kingdoms to send their aid. All told, several thousand soldiers are rallied to accompany the Trojans back to the front, but due to their increased numbers, they must march rather than row, which causes a delay. Finally, Evander dispatches Pallas, his own son, and requests that Aeneas teaches Pallas and returns him safely. The new army marches all day. That night, Venus suddenly appears to Aeneas and presents him with the arms that Vulcan has completed: helmet, corselet, sword, spear, and shield, all of them stronger than metal forged by humans. The shield is quite notable since it depicts Roman glory that awaits Italy. Aeneas sees Romulus being nursed by the she-wolf, the defeat of the Gauls, Caesar Augustus as he defeats Antony and Cleopatra at the Battle of Actium, and more. The story of Aeneas after that of Troy and Carthage resumes by Aeneas in his Trojan comrades making for Italy. But during the expedition, bad weather blows into Sicily, where they hold funeral games for the dead Anchises, father of Aeneas. The Trojan woman, tired of the voyage, began to burn the ships, but a rainstorm puts the fire out. Some of the travel weary begun, while Aeneas, reinvigorated after his father visits him in a dream, takes the rest.